Gusto had the composure to turn. Cole Palmer! And now what a trick from Palmer! Superb! Chelsea, the FIFA Club World Cup champions.
Vault themselves today into the conversation to go and win the Premier League next season.
This 2026 Chelsea squad isn't here to compete. They're here to dominate. Every position is stacked. Every player is hungry. And the message is clear. Chelsea are coming for the Premier League.
To go and win the Premier League next season.
But who are the players that are about to change Chelsea? And what can Chelsea win this season with this new squad? Well, let's talk about that. Last season, they finished 4th. Not bad, but not where they wanted to be. The thing is, it wasn't because they lacked quality. The squad was good, but the problem was consistency. There were games where they looked like the best team in England, pressing high, controlling possession, creating chance after chance, and then, the next week, they'd completely switch off. That inconsistency is what held them back in the league. If they'd just put together a proper run, they could have easily turned draws into wins and losses into draws. But what impressed me was in Europe, the Conference League campaign was no joke. They handled their business, beating solid teams like Copenhagen and Real Betis. And it wasn't just about the results, they controlled those games.
Sends in the cross, Enzo Fernandez with the header! And he brings Chelsea level!
They look composed, confident and ruthless. That title might not be the Champions League, but it did prove something. This team knows how to win when it matters. Now, with that European trophy in the cabinet and a top 4 finish under their belt, they are aiming higher. This season, the target is clear, the Premier League. And looking at this squad, they're building something serious. Every part of the team has been upgraded or reinforced, and they started with the goalkeeper. Roberto Sanchez is still the number 1, and honestly, he's improved a lot. His stop shopping has always been solid, but last season, his shot stopping has always been solid, but last season, he started commanding his box better and looking more confident dealing with crosses. His distribution, it's gotten sharper too, but here's the thing, he still has those lapses, moments where he hesitates or misjudges a pass. That's the final step for him. If he can cut out those errors and trust himself a little more, he has what it takes to be one of the best keepers in the league. And behind him, Chelsea has a promising backup in Jorgensen. He's young but composed, and honestly, perfect for those FA Cup and Carabao Cup fixtures. He's not quite ready to challenge Sanchez full-time, but he gives the squad the kind of depth every title-winning team needs. From there, let's talk about the heart of the team, the centre-backs. This is where it gets scary. But before we talk about the next set of players in this squad, please smash that like and subscribe button. Thank you. Let's start with the 2 players who look like the starting pair, Levi Colwill and Tosin Adarabioyo. Colwill brings that calmness you want in a modern defender. He's great on the ball, reads the game well, and he's got the confidence to step into midfield and play under pressure. Then you have Tosin next to him, aerially dominant, physically strong, and way more comfortable in possession than people give him credit for. Together, they give Chelsea a solid balance. One left-footed, one right-footed, one more aggressive, the other more composed. In and out of possession, they complement each other perfectly. But it doesn't stop there. Look at the names behind them. Benoit Badiashile, Wesley Fofana, Trevor Chalobah, and the new boy, Viega. That's 4 centre-backs who could start for most Premier League teams. Badiashile is the one I keep thinking about. When Chelsea first signed him, he looked like he was going to be a regular starter. Then injuries and dips in form pushed him down the pecking order. But if he can find that form again, strong in duels, calm in build-up, and dominant in the air, he could seriously challenge for a starting role, especially in a team like this that wants to rotate based on the opponent. That's what makes this defense so dangerous. It's flexible. For smaller games, cup matches, or even tactical changes, you can throw in a different pairing entirely. Badiashile and Fofana give you strength and pace. Badiashile and Chalobah give you stability and chemistry. It's not just depth for the sake of it, it's depth that fits different situations. And then you've got Vega, who's young but highly rated. He might not play a lot this season, but when he does, don't be surprised if he looks completely ready. Chelsea's defensive future is secure, but more importantly, their present options are elite. Now, let's go to the fullback position. Let's start on the left side with Marc Cucurella. Last season, he quietly became one of Chelsea's most important players, and I'm not just talking about defending. On the ball, he's been excellent. He understands when to overlap, when to tuck inside, and how to recycle possession under pressure. But what stood out was how often he helped Chelsea shift the momentum of a game. His pressing, his energy, his quick decision-making. He's no longer just filling a role, he's owning it. And the fact that he's stayed fit and consistent has been massive. He's not just good enough, he's been a top-level fullback. Now, on the right side, Chelsea has something a bit more interesting. They've got two solid players with very different paths, Reece James and Malo Gusto. When fit, Reece James is one of the best fullbacks in Europe. He's powerful, technically gifted, and can change a game in both directions. But here's the twist. Under Maresca, we've started seeing him being used more in midfield. It's a smart move. He's got the composure and passing range to play in those tighter spaces, and it helps Chelsea dominate centrally. That shift has opened the door for Malo Gusto, and honestly, this might be his breakout season. Last year, he had flashes, solid defensively, quick down the flank, great timing with his overlaps. But now, with more consistent starts, he could cement his place. He's still young, still learning, but he's got everything you want in a modern fullback. He's aggressive, technical, and he plays with confidence. If Reece spends more time in midfield this season, Gusto's minutes are going to increase, and so will his impact. So, between Cucurella on the left and the James-Gusto combo on the right, Chelsea's fullback positions are secure. And not just secure, they're dangerous. These aren't just defenders, these are players who can change the tempo of a match, create overloads, and offer tactical flexibility. Now that we've got the defense locked in, let's move into the engine room, because this is where Chelsea have done some of their smartest work. It's not just about having quality players, it's about having the right mix, and this season, it finally looks like they've got it. Let's start with the two that carried most of the load last season, Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. They were both under pressure after their huge transfer fees last season, but they delivered. Caicedo in particular grew into his role. Defensively, he was everywhere. Interceptions, recoveries, tackles, he gave Chelsea the kind of control and security in midfield that they've been missing for years. But what surprised a lot of people was his improvement on the ball. He started to pick out passes that break lines, and that's made him much more than just a ball winner. You can tell he's becoming more confident and more complete. Then you have Enzo. Last season, he finally looked like the Enzo we were expecting when Chelsea signed him. He played with rhythm, intelligence, and clarity. His ability to carry the ball through midfield, beat a press, and set the tempo made him the heartbeat of the team. Defensively, he put the work in too, tracking runners, covering spaces, but where he shone was in possession. He's not just a deep-lying playmaker anymore, he's a midfield leader, and under Maresca, he looks even more polished. But here's where things get even better. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. He came in last season and looked like he'd been at Chelsea for years. His energy, ball carrying, and late runs into the box gave the midfield another dimension. He linked up well with both Enzo and Caicedo, and more importantly, he brought goals. He's not just a workhorse, he has got quality, and he's a proper big game player too. Then there's Romeo Lavia. We didn't get to see enough of him last season because of injuries, but the flashes were promising. He's press-resistant, unpredictable in his movement, and he gives Chelsea a different rhythm when he's on the ball. The only concern is his fitness. If he can stay injury-free, he's got the potential to become a key part of this team. And just to make sure they're not lacking depth, Chelsea added Eduardo Asugo from Sporting. He's young, physical, and extremely tidy on the ball. He may not be starting games right away, but he gives Maresca a reliable rotational piece, especially when you're trying to compete in the league, FA Cup, and Europe. Having someone like Asugo who can slot in and maintain the intensity, that's crucial. So now, you've got Caicedo and Enzo as your base, Dewsbury-Hall pushing forward, Lavia offering unpredictability, and Asugo ready to come in when needed. That's a midfield that can press, defend, carry, and create. It's well balanced, and more importantly, it's ready for a title fight. And when you've got that kind of control in the middle, what you need next is someone to unlock defenses further up the pitch. That's where Cole Palmer comes in. Last season, Palmer didn't just break out, he exploded. Over 25 goals and assists in all competitions. That's elite level production. And it wasn't just about the numbers. He brought calmness in tight areas, real decision making under pressure, and that rare ability to dictate the final third. You could see how comfortable he was playing between the lines, whether it was combining with Enzo and Caicedo in the build-up or linking with the front three in transition. Palmer was always involved. He understood the timing, the movement, and the responsibility that comes with wearing the number 10. What makes it even more impressive was how quickly he adapted. He came from the City, where he was more of a squad player, and suddenly stepped into a role where everything ran through him, and he never looked out of place. Whether it was a big game or a European knockout tie, he showed up. He's not flashy for the sake of it. He's efficient, calculated, and deadly when given space. But it's not just about Palmer. Chelsea does have serious depth behind it too. Christopher Nkunku can slot into that role comfortably. Yes, he's had injury setbacks, but when he's fit, he brings a different energy. He's more direct, makes more off-ball runs, and can stretch defenses in a way Palmer doesn't. That gives Maresca two very different profiles to work with depending on the opponent. Palmer if you want control and creativity, Nkunku if you want pace and vertical threat. That depth is important because across a long season, Premier League, FA Cup, Europe, you need options. You can't just rely on one guy, and Chelsea finally has that. Two players who can both play as the central creator and still offer quality output. With Palmer in form and Nkunku in reserve, Chelsea's creativity through the middle looks sorted, but out wide, that's where it gets even more interesting, because Chelsea has made big changes to their wingers. Starting with the left wing, this was easily one of Chelsea's most unstable positions last season. They just couldn't find the right players to own that role. They had to rely on Jadon Sancho, who came in on loan from Manchester United. He had some decent games, no doubt, but it always felt temporary. He wasn't the long-term solution, and Chelsea knew it. That's why this season, they've gone for James Gittins, and that might turn out to be a game-changer. Gittins is sharp, aggressive, and he's fearless when running at defenders. He's direct, technically sound, and already looks like someone who can stretch a defense just by his presence on the wing. The left side has needed a player like this, someone who's naturally wide, but also smart enough to link with Palmer and the overlapping fullbacks. He's young, but the potential is clear. And then there's Tyreek George. He's not a big name yet, but he's getting bigger every single game. Last season, anytime he stepped on the pitch, you saw progress. More confidence, better decision-making, sharper movements. He may not start every game, but don't be surprised if he forces his way into serious minutes. He plays with purpose, and sometimes that's all it takes to break through. Now, over to the right wing, and this is where Chelsea are truly stacked. Pedro Neto is still here. Last season, he had a mixed campaign. On some days, he looked electric, beating players, creating chances, working hard off the ball. On others, you could tell the constant shifting between the left and right affected his rhythm. But with more stability and clearer instructions from Maresca, he could become far more consistent. When he's on form, he's a nightmare for defenders. Then there's Noni Madueke, but it looks like he's on his way out, possibly to Arsenal. It's a move that makes sense considering the competition for spots, but it still leaves Chelsea with a gap to fill. That's where Esteval comes in. This kid is different. At just 18, he's already shown the maturity and quality of someone way beyond his age. And if you watch the Club World Cup, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He won 2 Man of the Match awards and completely bossed games for Palmeiras. He even gave Chelsea problems when they faced him. Did you see that goal? Now he's joining them. He's technical, quick, confident on the ball, and most importantly, he performs when the lights are brightest. That's the kind of mentality you want on your flanks. So, between Neto's experience, George's rise, Gittins' explosiveness, and Esteval's raw talent, Chelsea suddenly has wingers that can win games by themselves. They finally have a width that matters, not just for depth, but for real impact. And when you've got that kind of service from wide, the next piece is obvious. You need finishers. Last season, Nicholas Jackson led the line, and to be fair, he wasn't bad. He scored 10 goals and added 5 assists in the league. That's respectable for a player adjusting to a new league and system. He worked hard, ran the channels, and created space for others. But let's be honest, there were too many games where he lacked the cutting edge in front of goal. The movement was there, but the final touch not consistent enough, and Chelsea knew that if they wanted to compete for the title, they needed more firepower. That's why, this summer, they went and signed Liam Delap and Pedro, two very different but very effective strikers. Let's start with Pedro. He's been one of the most complete forwards in the Premier League recently. Smart movement, clinical finishing, excellent link-up play. He doesn't just score goals. I mean, see the goals he's been scoring in the Club World Cup? He makes the players around him better. He knows how to find space between defenders, and he's the kind of striker who forces opponents to drop deep because of how dangerous he is in the box. He gives Chelsea that edge Jackson didn't always offer, a natural goalscorer who thrives in tight spaces. Then you've got Liam Delap, and his profile is completely different. He's physical, direct, and relentless. He puts defenders under constant pressure and never stops running. He can play as a lone striker or alongside someone else, and that's where it gets interesting. Because, with both Pedro and Delap, Chelsea now have the option to go two up top if needed. That flexibility is going to be huge this season, especially in games where one striker just isn't enough to break through low blocks. Now, here's the reality. Nicholas Jackson might be sitting on the bench more often than not this season, and it's not because he's bad, it's just because Chelsea now have options who are more clinical and more suited to different match situations. That's not a bad thing, it pushes competition, and that's what a squad like this needs. So now, Chelsea has three strikers, all offering something different. Pedro gives you composure and class, Delap gives you aggression and intensity, Jackson gives you pace and unpredictability. And all of that gives Maresca options. He can pick his striker based on the opponent, based on the shape, based on the moment. And that brings us to the final piece of all this, Enzo Maresca himself. Because with this kind of squad, the pressure is on him to make it all work. But do you think that he can make this team work? Well, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our last video. Thank you.